All right. I'm so excited, super excited to have you here, Harry's Grace. Good afternoon to you, and good morning, afternoon, or evening to anyone around the world who is watching this live or watching the replay. Today, we are in the third session of the identity series, and we are basically looking at how to discover our identity and how our identity affects and impact on different areas of our lives. So for this particular session, we are looking at how our identity impacts on our purpose. How do I know what my purpose is? How do I know why I'm here on earth? How do I know how to identify, walk in my purpose, and how my identity helps me throughout that entire process? So to help us and to help me and, to just discuss and dig into this topic really well, I have my friend and sister, Carrie's Grace Mekiliuwa. Did I get that right? So she's here with me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick bio for you, Grace. And then I'll just go into asking you questions and we'll take it away and have a wonderful time in God's presence. So Carrie's Grace Mekiliuwa is the founder of the Beauty from the Mess community, a Christian organization focused on building women in their identity in Christ through mind transformation while equipping them with skills and resources needed to live purposefully and abundantly. She is a teacher of the word, a worshiper, and an encourager, passionate about sharing the love and grace of God to others and empowering them to blossom into all that God has called them to be. Carrie's Grace is also certified. She's a certified life and mindset coach, a neurolinguistic programmer, and has worked with over 200 individuals since 2020 through individual and group coaching workshops and sessions, and she has helped them on their journey towards discovering all that is within them for a more fulfilling life. She is the coordinator of the BFM Book Club, that's Beauty from the Mess. She's the convener of the BFM Annual Conference, and she's also the convener of the Visions to Goals to Reality program, an annual self-evaluation, assessment, and envisioning coaching program. Carrie's Grace is intentional about living life fully, learning new things, and traveling to new places and expressing herself beautifully. She currently lives in the United States, and she is here live with me today. Let me stop sharing my screen so that we can look at her beautiful face. Okay. All right. So good to have you here, sis.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we're going to have such a lovely time today. Okay. Let me open this up. Okay. So I want to kind of give us a quick background. We're talking about purpose today. And I want to tell me, like, why do you feel like purpose is so dear to your heart? That topic of purpose. Like, why do you love talking about it, love helping people kind of discover fulfillment in their lives, helping them to convert their visions to goals and things like that? Like, why is it such a dear topic to you?
Well, thank you, Dr. Dara, for this opportunity. I'm really honored and I appreciate, the privilege to come here and, of course, discuss and interact with you and with every other person. So you asked about purpose. Why is it so important to me? Why is it so dear to my heart? I would say that I've been on that journey of purpose. I'm still on the journey of purpose. Like, when you're on a journey of something, you can share with other people and explain, and you can even learn from other people. I'll say that's the reason why it's really dear to my heart. And then another reason why it's also dear to my heart is the fact that, there are two fundamental questions every human asks at different points in time. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Why did my parents even bring me to this world? Why? Why do I exist? And for me, I'm really passionate about those two questions because I've realized even at different points in my own life, there were times I couldn't even answer these questions. Yes, I'm this, I do this, but who am I really?
Yeah.
All of those things. And then why do I exist? Why am I on earth? Of the question of purpose. And I would say those are reasons why purpose, is really dear to my heart. And of course, when I see people, like I said, I've been on that journey, I'm still on that journey. But then when I hear from people and I hear their stories or I even see them, it's really an encouragement for me, to continue on that journey of purpose, right? And to help and to empower and to encourage people to also find their own purpose in their life. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Because we all, it's a question we all have. And I feel like the inability to answer that question kind of weighs us down, doesn't allow us to be able to live life to the fullest, right? Leaves us confused and wondering, what life is all about. And sometimes, that could be detrimental to us, not just, even mentally as well. Like it kind of leads to lack of motivation sometimes. Like, what am I here for? I don't know what I'm doing. Let me just not do anything, So things like that. So it's really, really important. So I would say, I guess the next question I'm going to ask you is, we are talking about purpose. Somebody might be asking, what exactly is even, what is purpose? What is purpose? People have different definitions. People might see it as, maybe my career path, the thing I do. Some people may just say the thing I love doing. That's probably not my career, but just my gifting. Like, what exactly is purpose, really?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, because if we're saying, why do I exist? What is my purpose? We need to define what purpose really is,
Yeah.
And I think in the simplest terms, I would say the definition of purpose is why something exists. The reason why do I exist? Why does this phone exist? Why does my cup exist, right? Why does this door exist? The reason why a thing exists, or the reason why it's brought into existence. The reason why something is done, or something is what created. And of course, when we think about the spiritual term, or we think about, we as humans, I want to also go into that place of predestination. Because we cannot say there's just purpose, or, purpose is the reason why it exists. If we don't go back to the core and to the roots of the purpose, if I have to do what's predestination? Predestination is really knowing that God shows us way in advance.
Okay.
Before we were born, right, he knew us. He set us apart, called us a prophet to the nation. So he had a plan and he had a purpose already for us before we were not created in error, right? He brought us to this world on purpose, by purpose, with purpose, everything around purpose. And then there's this verse of the Bible that I really like. Of course, it explains purpose in a very good way. And I think that's found in Ephesians 1:11, if I have to find it. Yeah,
that's a powerful verse. I actually have that written down somewhere.
Oh, let's find it, It says in Ephesians 1:11, it says, I'm just going to read it now. Okay. In him also we have obtained an inheritance, right? Being predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will. But then when you also go to 2, when you go to chapter 2, verse 10, you also see the same thing about that. It says that, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. And so when I would define the word purpose also, I would say the good works, right? Stand for us. Those good. And so when we want to think about purpose, we need to ask ourselves, do we know the good things God has planned for us?
That God has planned for us.
Right? To walk into, to fulfill. Do you know the good things he has set apart for you, especially for you, to walk into and to fulfill? So that's purpose.
Wow. I actually want to read those 2 verses in the Passion Translation. So I think you had it in the KJV, right?
I did, in KJV.
Yes, that Passion Translation just blew my mind, and I want to just read it there. So I have it up here. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 11, TPT says, through our union with Christ, we too have been claimed by God as his own inheritance. Before we were even born, he gave us our destiny, that we would fulfill the plan of God, who always accomplishes every purpose and plan in his heart. I just love that. Then the Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, it says, we have become his poetry, a recreated people that will fulfill the destiny he has given each of us. for we are joined to Jesus, the Anointed One. Even before we were born, God planned in advance our destiny and the good works we will do to fulfill it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love how it says it in simple English. Yeah. So it's just beautiful, right? That God already knew us before we were born. And he already had plans for us before we were born.
Yeah.
Whatever plans he had for us before we were born is the purpose that we are supposed to fulfill when we end up being born and when we end up being born again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that
if we don't embrace it, or if we don't find out this good works, we're going to continue, to live a version of life that is so much more below God's plan.
I need to write that down.
And so if we don't embrace it, if we don't find these good works, this good thing. I mean, imagine the verse didn't say the thing he has prepared for us, the good thing. It is good. It is pleasing, it is perfect. And if we don't embrace it, if we don't find it, if we don't unravel it, if we don't know it, if we don't intentionally walk in it, then we're going to live a life that is just below God's plan, below the fulfillment, right? So it's beautiful. Those verses are beautiful.
So that actually brings me to, I don't know, maybe the follow-up question to that. Meaning that I have to be connected to God's plan, or I wouldn't be able to get there by myself. Like if I don't know God, and if I don't know his plan, if I don't figure it out somehow, which you're going to show us, or you're going to share with us how to figure it out. But I just have to be connected to that plan and know that plan. Else, I couldn't come up with something better than that plan, or even as good as that plan.
Yeah.
So does this mean that believers versus unbelievers, for instance, we have many unbelievers that are doing awesome things, great things in the world. Would you say that they are feeling purpose, or would you say that's not really God's purpose for them? That's a tricky question.
Yeah, that's a tricky question. That's a really tricky question. And just like you said, we're going to talk about, of course, how we can find purpose, those things, the blueprints, right, of purpose and all. But one blueprint I really want to talk about in the area of purpose is gifts. And the Bible talks about innate gift and spiritual gift. And the Bible also says he has given us everything that we need to live a godly life. He has already given us these gifts, right? He has given us the innate gifts. And that's why you realize that a child who does not even know God knows how to sing, knows how to play instruments, they love to dance, all of those things. And then you realize that God causes the rain to shine on the good and the bad people. And so one thing I would say is that, yes, you may be looking at people and you're saying they're successful, but what success really defines us? What success exactly? And so they may be actually, fulfilling something. They have a company. They're, they seem fulfilled in their lives because they're coming in career, everything is blossoming, relationship, marriage, family, and all of those kind of things. But then if you look deep into their lives, you realize that fulfillment doesn't come by those things. And that's why, I don't know if you've also read stories of how many of these seemingly successful people are depressed, or they're suicide, or they're doing that. And then you're so surprised because you're like, oh, this person was doing well. This person just this person just did this. This person just did that. Or they're the CFO of this company, but they jumped out of their roof or their balcony committing suicide. What's going on? It isn't tied to our career. It isn't tied to the worldly and earthly success. It's really tied to God, who has given us the purpose, who has changed us already. And one thing I would say is that a creature cannot find purpose outside of its creator. Many times that's what we try to do. We try to find purpose outside of our creator. We try to do this, we try to do that, but we cannot get that fulfillment, that deep satisfaction, and that peace that comes when our purpose is aligned with our creator's purpose. And the and so if I just imagine right now I'm a potter, I create this pot. I create a pot right now, and I'm saying this pot is to hold beautiful flowers. But then the pot is saying, no, I want to be a mirror. I want to be a mirror. I want people to look at me and see themselves through me. But then, how far can it go? How far can it go with that seemingly, that purpose that it wants?
It's actually funny because
Yeah,
the creator already knows the materials that is going to make what he wants. But
exactly.
you, the creature, the whatever the potter is molding,
Yeah,
decide that with those same materials that are supposed to
yeah,
make something else, I want to be something else that requires
yeah,
a different set of materials. It's not going
yeah.
to be girl, right?
Yeah, yeah. And if you continue, in this world with its worldly behaviors and customs, you realize that, we can never really get that fulfillment we want.
Hmm.
And many times you also find out people who are high up in their career, who seem to have everything, but there's just this void in their heart. And they
Hmm.
really cannot understand why there's something there. They really
Hmm.
cannot understand why they're happy. They really cannot understand why they're depressed. They really cannot understand that. And one verse, I know this is also, spiritual. I know
Of
one verse,
course.
that really rings to me when I think about purpose is John 4:15. Or
Okay.
John 15:4-5.
Okay. Hmm.
It says, let me just read it. John 15:4-5. It says, remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it's
Hmm.
dead from the vine. And if you cannot be fruitful you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. And of course, 5 says that, yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing.
Hmm. Wow.
So the so-called fruits we're trying to get and develop outside God would get to a point where they rot. Because
Hmm.
they are severed from God, from the vine, from the tree that is giving us nourishment, we cannot really survive. And
Hmm.
that's why when that branch is broken, yes, it might have some fruits already on it, but then those fruits get to rot. And then you
Hmm.
get to realize the branch withers. And there's nothing, you don't find the life that should be in that branch when it's attached to the tree,
Hmm.
And that's really the same thing about people. When we're not attached to God, we realize that we don't have life within the life that we have. Life,
Hmm.
what is life? The joy and the peace that comes when we have a relationship with God and when we are aligned in His purpose.
Wow. 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 When we are not attached to God, we
Yeah.
realize that we don't have the life of God within this life that we are in right now. This life just feels empty because that life is missing. Wow, that's deep. So I want to backtrack a little bit to something you said before, and I want to just reiterate.
Yeah.
You said something about why purpose is so important. And you said that there's something that comes with purpose. Usually, whenever you're working in God's plan, God's purpose for your life, there is fulfillment, there is joy, there is peace, there is satisfaction. There's just that, you feel complete, you feel whole, right? And that's why we're having this discussion today. We want to live a life that is fulfilling, a life that is satisfactory, a life that we actually enjoy. And it's important for us to work in purpose to enjoy that kind of life, right? Then you also mentioned something about without God or apart from God, we can do nothing. We can't really find our purpose outside God. So this means I was thinking as you were saying it, the connection between identity and purpose, it means I need to have figured out my identity in relation to God before I can actually find my purpose in God. Because for instance, I don't believe there is a God, then I can't find his plan because I don't even believe that he exists and that he has a plan, right? Even if I believe he exists and I don't actually believe that his plan is worth something that I should pay attention to, then I won't also find that path that he has created for me. So I actually need to acknowledge this God. I need to believe in this God and find my identity in him before I can actually find this purpose. Okay. So I don't know if you can speak more to that link between our relationship with God or our identity, finding our identity as maybe a child of God, and how that links to us being able to find our purpose.
Of course, that's a beautiful question. And when you were talking about relationship with God, you were talking about identity. One of my favorite verse in the Bible is Romans 12:2. Romans 12 verse 2. I mean, we can read it in so many versions.
Yes.
Let's go there and dissect it. And then you will realize how the relationship with God and identity, how these two things are really tied to purpose. We cannot find and fulfill purpose if we don't have the relationship with God and identity. So let's go there. So that's Romans 12 verse 2. It says, don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect. Now we're talking about relationship with God and we're talking about identity. If you look at that particular verse, it says, and of course, we know the popular one, NKJV, that being transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yes.
That, right? One thing I really want to say about that is, when you read it and you break it down, it says, let God transform you into a new person. He can only transform you into a new person. That's your identity when you have a relationship with Him. Your mind and you have that relationship. God cannot transform us if we do not have a relationship. We don't even believe that He exists. He cannot do it, right? And it's when He has these things settled, then it now says, then, right? And so He has those things settled, and then it now says, then you will get to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect, which is good. And so one thing I really want to start off with is, relationship with God. Relationship with God. What's your relationship with God like? How do you even define God? Who is God to you? Because now we've settled the fact that God chose us, even before we were born. He knew us. He planned everything out for us, right? He called us the prophet to the nations, right? He did all that. So that means He has a plan and He has a purpose, right? But then if we don't believe that God exists, how are we going to know the plan and the purpose that He has? Right? How would we know that? How can we know that? And then the next thing, like you said, of course, is the identity. Let go. So that relationship with God, what does it do? It transforms us into a new person. It gives us the new name. It calls us His. The Bible says that He calls us His own children. Yeah. And so when we have a relationship with God, we get to know who we truly are in. Because the version of identity that we have in our present reality cannot sustain and carry or handle the purpose and the plan He has for us. So it's through that relationship that we get water, the stream, right? That continues to transform and renew and, change the way we think. And then, of course, we can fulfill purpose. So identity is tied to our relationship with God. Because we cannot know who we are in Christ. This world is funny. It can toss us. That particular don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world. The world can toss us here and there and up and down and bring us to a point where we don't even know who we truly are. The world tries to define us. But if we are not sure and secure in the definition that God has given us and has called us, He has called us like He has called us a city set on a hill that will never be hidden. He has called us the salt of the earth. He has called us prophets. He has called us His own children, His very own possession.
Yep.
When you look at 1 Peter 2:9, it says, chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. He has called us all of those things to show forth the praises of Him who has called us out of darkness into His marvelous light. And so you see that He tries for us to settle that part of identity. This is who you are. This is who you are. This is who you are. Then now, this is what you're supposed to do. Yeah, this is who you are. This is who you are. This is who you are. Right? You look at Gideon, even in the Bible. Gideon was someone who was running away. There was war. He was in the threshing floor, trying to get wheat, hiding from their enemies. And then, of course, God appeared to him. What was the first thing He said? You are a mighty man. Mighty man of valor. You're a mighty warrior. That is it. First, that is who you are. And then when you understand that identity, then you can move into purpose. Sometimes people try to understand their why. Oh, why do I exist? Well, you have to understand who you are first. Another illustration I really want to give is the fact that you have a baby, right? You give a baby a big bag filled with all sorts of things. That baby cannot hold it. Yeah. Not hold it. And that's identity in a way. The lowest version of identity that we have about ourselves without God cannot sustain the purpose and the plan He has for us. And then we get to a point where we're like 6 and we're 10, now we can hold that back. But then God is saying that I have so much more for you. I want you to carry a luggage. I want you to carry I want you to carry something bigger. But then
Yeah.
at that point where we are 6 or we are 10 years, we still cannot carry that thing bigger. But then it's calling us to see a higher dimension of ourselves, calling us to a higher dimension of ourselves. And that's why you see in the Bible. Many times when God calls people, but he doesn't tell them this is all you will do. He calls them who they are or who they will need to be.
And they're like, who? Me?
Oh, me? I'm like, me, mighty warrior, me? How? You know, and so he's calling us to that. So we have to settle that area of identity first. And the last illustration I would give in the area of identity. You know, I heard this story about an eagle, right? This eagle was adopted by, of course, maybe a farmer, this and that, and of course, kept with the chickens, right? And so this eagle was there with the chickens and grew up with the chickens. And then you realize that I'm not a chicken. There's something more to lie. Chicken, what I mean, like, this is not who I am. This chicken just wants to clock. But then I want to fly. I see myself flying. This is just not me. But then he couldn't get to that point of flying. He couldn't fly because he was still there and he was still wondering, who am I not? And then he realized that those chickens were making fun of him. And then he said one day that, are you trying to do like those eagles there? Don't you know you're a chicken? And that's when he realized he knew the name, Eagle.
Eagle.
I'm really an eagle. And then when he got to that point of identity, then he was now trying to fly. And he got to the point where he mastered all the strength that he needed to fly. And he was able to soar. And so that's the thing about identity. Identity gives us the security. It gives us the encouragement. Identity gives us, you know, when everything is not even working out in purpose, right? It gives us security in God. That this is who I am, regardless of my career, regardless of when you strip everything off me, I am still who God says I am. I'm still who God says I am. So yeah.
Wow. Oh Lord. So as you were talking about the analogy of the eagle versus the chicken, and the eagle who thought he was a chicken until he kind of saw that there were other things flying and it feels like I should be able to do that. Why am I here? Right?
Yeah.
It kind of made me think there is something that seeing does to you. Like if he ever saw that there was a different possibility, he wouldn't have ever thought of living where he was.
Yeah.
So that means that with growing in our identity and being secure and discovering who we are and actually walking in that identity, we need to put things before us that tell us who we are. Yeah. And we know that the word of God tells us who we are. You've already told us different examples already, shared different Bible verses already about who we are. And the more we behold these things, the more we get that courage, the more we get that strength, the more we get that confidence and that boldness to actually enter into the things that God has prepared for us, right?
Yeah.
So I have, this other question. Let's assume, I'm this Christian that knows God, that loves God, that knows that God has a plan for me. And, I'm growing in my identity. I'm learning more about who God says I am as a child of God, what I can do, who he has called me to be, a king, a priest, to change the world for him, to bring his kingdom, to do this and to do that. How do I figure out what God's plan, what his specific plan is for me? I've heard before that there's the general plan of God, there's a specific plan of God. General plan of God is like, we are all supposed to go and preach the gospel to all nations. We are all supposed to, he said he created us for his glory, to praise him. He created us, so there are all these general things that we as his children, as humans, should do and that we've been called to do. But what about me specifically? So how do I, as a Christian, if I'm confused, like how do I actually find out my specific purpose or the specific plan that God has for me as a person?
Yeah.
So what pathway should I go through?
Yeah. And I like that question because first and foremost, it's still rooted in the Bible, right? So, we're talking about Jeremiah 1 verse 5, before we were formed, he knew us and he called us, prophets to the nation.
Yeah.
Really looking at the word prophet. And many times I know we just look at it in that spiritual context of, prophet, I'm telling you what God says, this and that. But we're also prophets in our career. Because when I think about prophet, I think about we sending God's message through our words, our actions, everything that we do to other people. And so we don't have to preach. It's not just about reading, be a Christian, this God loves you, this and that. No. It's about still passing across our message, God's message, through all the things we do. The prophet is the messenger. So we're messengers in our career, we're messengers in our family, we're messengers in our environment, in our physical environment, even when we're not preaching the gospel. Through our words, through our actions, through our deeds, through all of those things, we preach. We preach. Yeah, we don't have to tell people, oh, God, we preach. And they're watching us and they're looking at us. They're looking at, if you say you're different, how are you exactly different? How are you different? And so, of course, you talked about, no, I'm a Christian. How will I find my specific purpose? There was a particular verse I said that God has given us everything that we need to live a godly life. God gives us hints. He gives us, blueprints. And what's a blueprint? It's a map that gives us direction, that helps us to find out things. And so in every single body, in every single person, they have blueprints. Blueprints in form of, we can even say, well, we want to start in the form of spiritual, wherever, dreams and vision. But then you have that thing and you're like, God is calling me to this. It doesn't have to be a pastor. We don't have to be teachers. We don't have to be all of that. But even in my career, this is something I'm really passionate about. And I know I really want to move this step forward. I know I want to do this. I know I want to create this because I know it's going to be a blessing to other people. It's going to impact the lives of people. And so we're saying that, of course, God is calling us into that through dreams, through visions. And what's a vision? A picture of the future, right?
Yeah.
Picture of the perceived future. When we feel that this is what I want to be, this is who I need to be, this is it. I'm looking at the picture, it's bigger than myself. That is that part. Then another information. We have information all around us.
Okay.
And I'll break that down into different ways. Information in the sense that many times people notice the things that we don't even notice in ourselves.
Did you say formation or information?
Information.
Okay.
Information. People notice the things that we don't even notice about ourselves. Now, I'm not saying we should depend on everything people say. No. But then you might be doing something between, and you're not even giving so much thought about that. But then someone is like, this is something beautiful you're designing. And then that seed alone just dwells within you. Like, wow, I can take this further.
Yes.
I can take this further because this is a gift. Information also in form of gift, in form of talent, in form of strength. We're all uniquely made. We're all uniquely made. He designed us, he formed us, he set us apart. We're unique in our own ways. He gave us the strength for a purpose. With a purpose. He gave us a particular strength. And so I have the strength of teaching. I have the strength of speaking, public speaking. He gave me that strength. Now, for some people, their own strength may be music. They just love to play the instrument. That's something different. Another person may be like, you know what? I love to build things. I love to build houses. I just see this land and I see the image and the picture of, the house that can be on it. Something different. He gives us strength that are aligned with the things he's calling us to do. Our strength, our passions, and our talents. And then another thing that I feel that many people do not really look into is experiences.
That one is deep.
Experiences. Many times we say, what's my strength? I have this strength, I have all of things. But are we also tapping into the experiences that we passed through? Are we tapping into it? And when I think about experiences, I also want to break that down into experiences in the area of passions, the things we're passionate about, the things we do, and we feel like, we want to advocate for this, we want to do, and all of that. But then even also the other negative experiences of pain that we go through, things that we don't even want to think about. So when somebody's like, don't remind me, don't tell me about it. The pain we all go through. And I'll give my own little story, I remember that. So I'll give my story, and it's going to, of course, encompass all of these things I've talked about. So I remember when I was very young, because a child, maybe I think I was 5 or 6 or whatever, in primary school, and then, even before then, or like around that point. I remember my mom would always tell me a story that I love to gather people, that, when we are playing, I would love to gather, you will do this, you will do that, you will do this, like assigning things to people that do that. When I was really tiny, you don't play with sand. Basically, what did I know? And then when I was in primary school, in primary 6, of course, that's for people in Nigeria, of course, primary 6, maybe for the people in US, I guess that's what do you call that now? That's not middle school?
No, that's grade what now? No, fifth grade, I think.
Fifth grade, okay, but yeah, we all
Yeah.
understand that exactly. 5
Yeah.
years, 6 years, But then, of course, in primary
Oh,
six,
5 years, 6 years is no.
in primary six, I was 10. Yeah.
Okay, 10. Okay.
Yeah, primary six, I was 10. And so, at that time I was the assistant head girl. So of course I had many of these girls around me, just always coming to me and all of those things. I wasn't really doing much, then of course sometimes I'll go to their class and I would, hey, we are doing that kind of thing, noisemakers list, just arranging them and putting them together, and all. And then I left, and of course that was passion. That was something I loved. That was a strength that of course people had already recognized here and there in me, right?
Mm.
And then, I got to secondary school. And that's when, of course, you're developing and you're realizing that this person is different from you. And that's when, all those character traits, even though they're negative, sometimes build up, or this, or that, and all of that. And then I started experiencing some pain, going through painful experiences, especially with the females, right? Just not having good relationships, I really didn't have good friends, and all of those things. In primary school, I had friends, I had many little girls around me, but then in secondary school, I really didn't have that. I just felt that, here and there, like everyone was back, picking on this person or doing this or doing that, all of those kind of things. And then even in other environments apart from my secondary school, but I know I was around that age. And then at some point in my life where I said, I really don't want to do anything with things. I don't even want to gather money. What am I gathering? I don't want to have all of those things. I don't want to do, I don't want that because I just felt like I'd rather, mingle with, guys, so I don't want to have female friends. Their wahalas too much, their troubles, those kind of things. And then also, even getting past that stage, university also, I realized that, I really didn't have many friends, many female and all of that. And I was like, well, I think I'm fine. I think, it's okay, just going through all of that. I was like, it's fine. And then I got to a point also some years back where, I had an experience that, I passed through that just broke me in a way, right? Also, of course, in that area of pain. And then one thing I realized was, God is calling me into something that I don't want to do. I don't want to gather women, nor do I want to have anything to do with a group of women. Let's just put it that way. Not just even one, but now you're having to have a group of people. And I used to tell this story to people because I was like, I really do not want to. But I thought God was calling me to that. And I just started seeing the picture, seeing that picture again and again. And I had my doubts, right? I had my insecurities too. That, I don't want to because I felt like I was going to, feel a bit self-conscious, all of those things. And I just didn't want to put myself in that. But then, of course, there's that confidence, right? That, of course, God gives when you bring it to Him. It's not going to be an easy journey. But then you just say that, well, these things are aligning. There was a day I had to also even write down my strengths. Okay, I love to do this. I love to do that. What am I passionate about? I love to talk about identity because this has also been my own journey. I love to talk about purpose because this is a journey that I don't want to enter into, but it's also something I really love. I love to help people. I love to empower, ladies, regardless of the age. I really love to. I love to listen to people, right? But then I know I'm running away from this thing because of the pain. I don't want to have to deal with this, right? And I remember the first time when the BFM community started. Actually, when the idea really came into my mind and it was just there and again, I remember it was December of 2021. 2021 or 2020. So January of 2023 made it 2 years. So that's 2020.
2020.
Yeah. 2020. So of course at that moment, that idea really came in strong, and I was like, oh, the name also came. But I was like, who am I going to invite? Who will come? Who will do this? But then just taking that bold step. And what I really want to do is also encourage somebody, because you might think that, okay, this is something I feel God is calling me to, but I don't really think I have the ability, the capability. I don't feel like I match the person that should do that. I don't feel like, in fact, I don't even know what my strengths are. Sometimes you just really have to take a moment to write it down, ask people. And so that was it. There was a point in my life where I had to ask, what are my strengths? If the person was even asking, I said, I don't know. I don't know what I can do, but of course, with this person, they guided me. I wrote these things down, and then we started breaking it down. And that's where coaching also comes into, right? So these are the strengths that are really aligned, and this strength are more in the area of speaking, are more in the area of encouraging, are more in the area of empowering. And these other strengths, are closely knitted, right? Are all in the area of this, all in the area of that. So now look at those strengths. Look at those passions. Look at those experiences that you've had. What things do you feel you can do around them? It doesn't have to be maybe. Or what things do you think you're already doing that you're not even noting? And maybe someone, just calls you for an advice. And you're able to give sound counsel. Able to give wisdom. You have that wisdom. God has blessed you with wisdom, with knowledge, with understanding, with discernment. Or you're able to pray for people. Or maybe in your career, of course, there's a problem and they're wondering, okay, how do I really handle that? But then he has also blessed you with wisdom. They say the spirit of the sovereign
ideas.
Yeah, the spirit of the Almighty gives me understanding. Understanding is not just in the church. Understanding is also in your workplace.
Yeah.
He has given you and has blessed you with the understanding. And so you get there, you just realize you have ideas. And then people are just marvel. How did we not think about this? How did we not think about that? And so those are the things. You start writing all those things down. And you start realizing that in a little way, you're living purpose, little by little. And
yes.
so how can you scale it up? How can you scale it up? What can you do? Maybe, you can, just decide one day to have a program for a couple of people. Or maybe one day you realize that this orphanage, I want to gather people so we can actually bless these people. Or maybe, I have this passion for girls, in secondary schools, with whatever age, I want to help them. Or maybe, at the career, I feel like, okay, you know what? I just found myself in the area of, helping to build the vision, the mission, and the goals of this company, of this startup. You're working with startup, you're doing that. And it's like, I really love that. So maybe I can do that, consulting, helping people. Little things here and there. Many times I realize that we undermine ourselves and we look down on ourselves because we look at all that God has given us, then we know that we are so much more. We are already doing so much more. And we need to just tap into that and bring it out even more. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Wow. Wow. I love what you said last. Like, it also connects identity with purpose. We need to believe who God says we are. Yeah. We shouldn't think, even though it's not apparent, God calls us a saint. Sometimes we feel like I'm not really a saint. I make all these mistakes. Do you get? Yeah. So we have to kind of elevate that identity to what God says we are. If God calls you a warrior and you feel like you're hiding somewhere, you have to actually believe you're a warrior so you can go out and do that thing that God has said, right? Yeah. So that's so beautiful. And when you were talking earlier as well about, this purpose thing and how sometimes God uses your pain, in the place of purpose. I remember when we were talking earlier, we talked about the Bible verse that talks about how God comforts us, even in our own weakness, in our own pain, so that we can take that comfort with which he has comforted us and use it to comfort others. So sometimes the hard times we are going through is not just because God does not like us or God has forgotten about us, but God wants us to actually learn something from that process, from that experience, so that we can help countless thousands of others who are also in that process and don't even know how to get out of it. So sometimes there's purpose in our pain. Yeah. Like you already mentioned.
Yeah. I have something to also add to that, if you don't mind. When we're looking at Romans 12:2, we're talking about relationship with God, we're talking about identity, all tied to purpose. And then there's another third factor in that place, and that's mind renewal. Renewal. And when we have that relationship with God and it brings us into the new identity that he has for us, he renews our mind, right? And so when I think of the painful experiences, many times we go through some painful experiences and we have the victim mentality. So these things happened to me. I don't know why they happened to me, and this and that. And because of the things that have happened to me, because of the past experiences I've had, maybe since childhood, whatever, now I cannot amount to anything. Now I'm just this. That is why I am this. This is who I am because of those things. And we start blaming other people. So it takes us through that mind renewal and that mind transformation. And so we're able to see. It says, let our eyes be enlightened, right? We're able to see that this experience that I went through, where I saw myself as a victim, where, maybe, I was raped, maybe this, maybe that. Now I can see clearly, and I can see that I went through this experience so that I can, of course, comfort other people, help other people, so that the person who God brings my way, and then I meet this little girl who has been raped, right? And of course, I'm able to, of course, encourage her, tell her that, I went through this, and you can be so much more. And then she looks at me, and she wants to be like me, not as like, oh, exactly like me, but she still wants to be much more, because
exactly.
I have much more, right? Yes. I'm able to step out from that victim mentality. So my transformation is a very important thing too, when we're thinking about painful experiences. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. The other thing is, you also mentioned, also kind of similar to the pain thing, when you're talking about your story, you talked about how you kept feeling God calling you towards women, but you're like, nope, I don't want to do women. So it means that sometimes your purpose might not just be the things you are passionate about, the things you love to do, the things you enjoy doing. God may actually be leading you in a direction that you really don't want to go. Which is actually very interesting. So we cannot say purpose is like a smooth road, an easy road, a road where we're just having fun, just doing the things we love, chilling, and all of that stuff. So God calls us on tough and difficult paths sometimes.
Yeah.
Paths of, Go on.
And on that journey of purpose, on that journey of living that, it calls us to build character. Like we develop beyond what, when you now look back at it, so you're like, I've grown. Because you develop things that you never would have developed if you were just on that same level. So the journey, many times, is not easy. It's not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey, but then there are stories you will tell afterward, and you realize that those things you passed through helped you, shaped you to be who He has called you to be. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And it kind of reminds me of a Bible verse that I kind of looked at earlier, and I have it on here as well. Yeah. Psalm 32, verse 8 to 9. And I'm going to read it in the Passion Translation. It says, I hear the Lord saying, I will stay close to you, instructing and guiding you along the pathway for your life. So we know that we're not alone, no matter what is going on. He's with us, telling us what to do step by step, right?
Yeah.
It goes ahead to say, I will advise you along the way and lead you forth with my eyes as your guide.
Yeah.
Then it now says, so don't make it difficult. Don't be stubborn when I take you where you've not been before. Don't make me tug you and pull you along. Just come with me. The part that I highlighted here was, we already know our identity, right? We know that God is with us. We know that God is leading us. God is speaking to us. God is putting passions, visions, ideas, things in our heart that He wants us to do.
Yeah.
But then we have to agree with Him and cooperate with Him and actually move in that direction.
Yeah.
Because the highlighted part says, so don't make it difficult. Don't be stubborn when I take you where you've not been before. It didn't say if I take you where you've not been before. The path of purpose is a path to where you've not been before.
Oh, yeah.
So God is going to take you into new territory, sometimes places you don't want to go. Because if you want to go there, you won't be stubborn, you won't resist it, right? So it's actually interesting how we have to embrace difficulties. We have to embrace resistance. We have to embrace, the fact that we're going to be going on a new journey. It's kind of like an adventure. It's kind of like an adventure. So because we haven't been there before, and sometimes we like to be, as humans, we like to be in our comfort zone. We like to do things that we know we are okay with. We know how it's going to turn out before we start. But that's not the road of purpose. We don't know how it's going to turn out before we start. So that's actually interesting. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I think I have one more major question, I think, for us. Good. So we kind of talked a little bit about how the journey might be tough, right? The journey might be difficult. Sometimes it's not a rosy road. It's not an easy road. How does our identity in God help us through? Now I'm working in my purpose. Now I'm doing what God has called me to do, but it's hard. How do I go through? How do I navigate that? God has called me, to lead these people, but these people are not responding to me. God has called me to fund these people's education, but no one is contributing. The doors just seem to be slammed shut, locked, closed in my face. What do I do? How do I press forward? How do I not become discouraged or feel like I'm not qualified? How does my identity in God help me push through and still see God's purpose in the tough times? That's the question here.
Yeah. We've already, laid a foundation that purpose is not an easy journey. It's not an easy, right? And there are times where, it can be quite shaky. You feel like you need this funds, just like what you're saying, but nothing is coming in. You don't even know what to do. You don't know where to turn to. And maybe for people who have their families, children are probably starving. They don't have, do you get what I mean? Like, it's not the picture that God has given you. You feel like, and you feel like things are falling apart. What do you do? First, I would say turn to God. First, I'll say, well, turn to God. He hears our cry. He was the one who brought us on this journey.
Yeah.
Turn to God. And then all the times, remind yourself of who He has called you to be. Remind yourself of the thing He has, the promises He has given you that are tied to that purpose. Remind yourself again and again. Remind yourself again and again, because it's going to be a very tough road. Remind yourself at different points. That He's faithful. Faithful is He. Faithful is He who has called you. Faithful is He who is with you. Faithful is He. Again and again. And reminding that regardless of the things that are around, it says in Romans 8 that nothing shall separate us from the love of God. Is it tribulation? Is it persecution? Is it this? Is it that? And maybe to add to that also, is it when things are not going well? Is it when things are not? Yeah. That regardless of all these things, then it says that we are more than conquerors.
Yeah.
Overwhelming victory is ours. And many times we may not see that victory now, but we hold on because we know that there is victory at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
That hope, holding on to that steadfast hope, holding on, knowing there is victory, knowing that faithful is He who has called you to this road. And He will not leave you there and just move away. He will not leave you there.
Nope.
And then another thing I would also say is, sometimes we need the right people in our lives. We need people. There's that place of, community. There's a place of connections, right? We need people who will remind us to see ourselves the way God sees us. We need people who will remind us when we want to leave that journey, when we want to leave that, when we feel like, I am tired. I remember the story also. I can't remember if it's Elijah or Elisha. It's Elijah. Okay. That was when God passed the mantle to Elisha. Yeah. When the Jezebel, the wife of Ahab, right, wanted to kill him and said to him, you're going to die for killing all these prophets of Baal. You will die. Yeah. He was so scared. He ran and said, God, my life. There's even nobody that is believing in you like me. This and that. That paraphrasing. But then God had to show him that, no, there are about 300. I can't remember the number.
Was it not 7,000 self or 7,000?
I can't remember the number. Yeah. That believe in me. And so many times we realize we feel like we're alone on the journey. We need people. We need people. There's a part in Hebrews. I'm trying to find it. Where it says, let me find that. I can't remember the exact, where it says also that looking up to Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him on the cross.
Where was that?
That's
was it 12? Okay.
So it says, but starting with 1, it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. Before that Hebrews 12, we talked about Abraham, talked about all those people who had to go through that journey of faith. They didn't know what was going to come their way. The journey was not easy, but they still continued. And the Bible is not telling us that. You've read the stories now. I hope you're encouraged to now that you see. And many times we don't just hold on to those stories, even the stories of people around us.
Yes.
Right? Many times it's about sharing your challenges, sharing to someone else who believes in you and believes in the journey that you're going through. And who has probably walked the steps that you have gone through. And sharing it with them and just getting the encouragement from their own story. And then the last thing is that let us strip off every weight that slows us down on this journey of purpose. The thing that we're surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sins that so easily trips us up, And of course, when I think of the word sin and I think of the word weight that slows us down, many times even the thoughts in our minds that, what can you do? it's going to fail. Nobody will, support you. Nobody will sponsor you. Nobody will fund this thing you're trying to do. Leave it, let it go. And then he says, let us run with endurance. On this road, we need endurance and we need patience. Many people are trying to get the good thing, the fame, the accolade, everything immediately. No, it takes time. Because during that process and during that journey, like I said, character building, shaping, living the weights, the wrong things, the way we see life, the perception. Like I said, of course, God renewing and transforming our minds. Those things, it's through that journey, through the difficult processes, that He's able to shape us. He's able to change those things. And He's able to help us rely on Him alone. Let us run with endurance. And then, of course, He gives us another encouragement. And we do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus.
Keeping our eyes on Jesus.
The author and the finisher of our faith. This version says the champion of who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy that was set before Him, He endured the cross. So are we also keeping the joy before us? Are we also keeping the joy before us? Or are we allowing our eyes to be distracted? And it says the double-minded person will not get anything from God.
Anything from God.
Yeah. So are we looking this way or looking that way? And maybe somebody's telling us, you better leave this thing and try something else. Wow. Are we looking into Jesus, the author and the finisher, because He has also gone through that journey. He has also gone through that part. It wasn't an easy part. There was a point where He was tired. He said, let this cup pass over me. That time we also say, God, what am I doing here? Let this cup pass over me. I am done. I'm tired. What is this purpose all about? Yeah. Well, then we continue. And just like I said, there's so many, we have the encouragements from the Bible, but then we also have the encouragements of people around us. Who are we listening to? What are we hearing? What are we feeding our minds with? Are we feeding our minds with the negative things around that we think it can never work out? It never work out for this person. It will never work out for you. Are you filling your minds with the encouragement, with the hope of the stories of people who have gone through this thing, gone through the wilderness, and they came out successful into that place of flourishing, that place of fruitfulness? And so these are things we really need. It's never an easy road, but we need that encouragement from God, from the Word of God. We see it here. It says, think of all the hostility you endured from sinful people, then you won't become weary. Oh, let me read it. Why am I even? It says, because of the joy awaiting Him, He endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now He is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. And so we go through that thing and we'll get to the point where we are victorious, overwhelming. We have that more than conqueror spirit, right? And then it says in verse 3, think of all the hostility you endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not yet given your lives in your struggle against it. What he's trying to say here is that you won't become weary and give up on the journey of purpose also. That thing beside you, in front of you. And so I would say, we need all of those things because it's not going to be an easy road. But we know that there's a faithful Father who has called us. And He called us even before we were born. So yeah.
Wow. I feel like this is just a perfect summary, culmination, like just wrapping everything we've been talking about up. Because no matter what, the road, like we said, the road of purpose is not an easy road, and we need to know these things. We need to arm ourselves with these things. We need to strip away every weight. We need to run with endurance. We need to keep our eyes on Jesus. We need to keep the joy before us. What is the joy? The end goal. Right? We are doing this thing because we want to see this change. We want to see this transformation. We want to see this impact in the world. Paint the picture of how you would feel, how the world would be when that impact is going to be made. And let that be your continuous motivation. Like, this is where we are going and we're going to get there. And like we read, we will get there if you don't give up. Don't be weary and don't give up. And God is there to actually strengthen you. He has already given you all you need, like you said, for life and for godliness. Every spiritual blessing, all that you need to fulfill the purpose He has called you to, He has strengthened you with it. So, that's enough, to kind of carry you on that journey. This has been a super, super enlightening session, an empowering session, and I feel refreshed. I feel like, I'm encouraged to continue to move on this journey. As you're also speaking, I was thinking about the issue of comparison. this is a big thing in this social media age.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I'm doing this thing. These are other people doing this same thing. Do I even have a place here? All these people doing this, they're doing these awesome, great things. And I'm here, struggling. And we have already received all this encouragement to help us keep our eyes not on what others are doing, but on what God has called us to do and on the end goal that he has placed in front of us. So all of this would also help guard us against the trap of comparison as well. Yeah.
And then I think maybe lastly, just also reminding ourselves that, he made us wonderfully and like uniquely, right? We have a unique calling and we have a unique purpose. We don't need to compare ourselves. I think when we are secure in the fact that God made me specially, he counted the number of hair on my head. He made me specially. Like, he sat down to make me and create me for 9 good months. You know what I mean? Like, I'm special and I'm unique in his sight. I'm the apple of his eye. Yes, we're all apples of his eyes, but me, I am a special apple. And even when
different flavor.
Yeah, when it seems like all those people are doing well. The Bible also says that there's a season for everything, right? It's always so funny that I was just thinking about this, that it's so funny that we might be admiring somebody, we don't know when they will die. So maybe God is just letting them finish everything they need to finish. No, because the next day they're dead. You are now actually, comparing yourself to this person, but you don't know their own journey will soon end. And then he has a longer life for you. What I'm trying to say is that we don't know. We don't know. We don't even know the things they're passing through. We don't know the lessons God is teaching them on their own journey. We don't know. Yeah. And sometimes, it's so funny, is that when you now get to know these people, you now realize that I should be grateful. There are things I should be grateful for because there are things that I was going in life. And and of course, not to, but this is just to say that he's mindful of us.
Yeah.
He's really mindful of us.
And we need to trust him. If we would really follow what he wants us to do, we need to trust our best interests at heart. We need to trust that where he's taking us through or what he's taking us through is for our good and for the good of others as well. We need to trust that the end is an expected end, that it's a glorious end. That his plans are better than our plans.
And of course, with the Romans 12, it says, be not conformed to the world, to the things we see in our world, right? Yeah, so definitely,
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I think the final thing I want to just add is, when it comes to purpose, we shouldn't be overwhelmed with, what is that big thing I need to do? Usually, I've noticed that purpose is just a series of small things that add up. And then when you keep obeying God every day, it's a day-to-day journey. Keep obeying God day to day. You realize in 1 year that, how did I do that thing? Like, I can't believe that I did that. I was able to achieve that because it wasn't just one thing. It was a series of obediences. If there is a word like that, it was a series of just following what God was saying to you day by day. Today, he might say, this is the school I want you to enroll in. Tomorrow, he might say, this is the coaching program. He talked about coaching to bring out our talents, our, all the giftings that God has placed inside of us, our strengths, to dig deep. So he might say, tomorrow, this is the coaching program I want you to enroll in. The coaching program actually might not even be about the giftings. It might be about the person he wants you to meet.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I actually met you through a coaching program.
I know, right?
It's interesting how God will tell you, do this today, do that tomorrow. And those little things add up. And you realize that I'm already working in the plan that he has for me. I'm already working in the purpose he has for me. He might just tell you today, read this message or listen to this message about something. Listen to this podcast about something. And you are getting this knowledge that you need for 5 years down the line. So the journey of purpose is an everyday journey of obedience to what God wants you to do. I think that's a very simple definition for me because we make it such a big thing, but it's actually those small things every day.
Every day is a day to live purposefully.
Yes.
In every little way. And just like you said, right, when we look at being a prophet to the nations, we are thinking of the big nations. But then it's the actions, the words, the things we do around us, around our environment, the people around us, how are we impacting lives? In little ways, it could even be through a hug, it could be
Call
that.
this person, check on this person, right?
Yeah, it could be prayer, even you're alone and someone drops on your mind, oh, let me just pray for this person. It could be serving. It could even be the minute things that we feel that, oh, wow, we look at the grand ones, being the this, being the head, being the that. It could be the little ways you're serving, cleaning the floor. Little things like that. So each and
buying food for somebody that you don't know.
That you don't even know.
Yeah.
Nothing, money, this, that. And even if you say, I don't have the money, I don't have the food, I don't have that. Prayer. Lots of encouragement. So each and every day we can live purposefully. God has given us every day to live purposefully. We don't have to live.
Wow, this is super beautiful. I'm so grateful for you hanging out with us today. As you've been speaking, many messages have been coming in, some on YouTube, some on Zoom. So on YouTube, Abiodun says, I love this. Knowing who you are is the foundation of working in purpose. There is purpose in our pain. Stop having the victim mentality. God has given us the strength to push through. The journey of purpose is an everyday thing. On Zoom, Helen says, wow, true. He calls us who we are first before the assignment. She says she loves this confirmation and she says this session is for her. So this is so beautiful. We thank God for coming for us and for speaking to us and for you being his mouthpiece and allowing us to be blessed through what he has, what he has sent you to tell us. So thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone as well who has tuned in and I'm glad that you've been blessed by today's discussion. Our next identity series session is coming up next month, April 29, to be specific. And it's interesting that we talked here about our relationship with God and how that helps us in finding purpose, walking in it and everything. And we said that relationship with God is what infuses that life into us. So next session, we really want to talk about how can I be close to God? How can I build that intimacy? We talked about who I am. I'm a child of God, right? But it's not enough to know that I'm a child of God. How do I actually be closer to him? How do I actually hear him? Because when we talk about God's plan, for instance, we said God has a plan for us, right? And, he will reveal it to us what we're supposed to do day by day. But somebody might be asking, how do I even know what he's telling me day by day to do? Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about that in our next session. How can I be close to God? How can I hear his heart? How can I build that closeness with him so that I can actually live that fulfilled life, grow in my identity and all of that? So I can't wait to see you guys in the next session. Thank you so much, Carrie's Grace. We really, really love you being here. God bless you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and thank you for doing this, this amazing work you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes. Helen Olanike says she's so blessed with this session. Thank you so much, Carrie. Helen says, thank you, ma. Everybody say thank you so much. Yes. So I pray that you all have a very great rest of your weekend. God bless you. Have fun. And if you're in Nigeria, go and vote next week, Saturday. God bless you and have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.